WB Games. What the hell, man? What is going on over there at Warner Brothers? I received a text earlier today about this story, and I didn't really understand exactly what was going on until later on in the evening. And then I started seeing all these articles that Warner Brothers has essentially canceled the Wonder Woman game, the upcoming Wonder Woman game. And not only did they cancel the Wonder Woman game, but they closed the studio that was making the game as well as two other studios. They closed Monolith Productions, who was the main developer for the upcoming Wonder Woman game, which is now canceled. And they also shut down Player First Games as well as WB Games San Diego. And of course, Monolith Productions, they're responsible for the fantastic, brilliant RPGs based in the Lord of the Rings universe, the Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Shadow of War games. And Wonder Woman was their next upcoming project until just recently. Now, according to this article, they are refocusing, WB Games that is, they're refocusing their games division on major franchises that they control, such as Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, and DC Comics. But that really doesn't explain why this decision was made. And for me personally, this is extremely disappointing on a multitude of different levels. It's disappointing to the point of anger, because WB Games has been consistently shit, with one exception, this entire generation. They've been one of the worst companies almost consistently throughout the entirety of the 9th generation of gaming. And the fact that this game will never see the light of day, yeah, I'm not particularly happy about it. And regarding the timeline for this Wonder Woman game, I believe this was announced at the Game Awards. I think it was either in 2021 or 2022. And then the game went dark for a number of years. We didn't see any screenshots. We didn't see any gameplay. Nothing was leaked. We didn't know what the state of the game was. And then there were some leaked images that appeared online, 3 in particular. This was one of them. This was the second one. And this is the last image. Basically depicting concept art of what the game, was going to be. And so, looking at some of these images, I started to get excited about, what the game was actually, shaping up to be, what it was going to become. This was until it was confirmed that the game was having trouble behind the scenes and was basically restarted, and the director of the game had essentially been replaced. So at the time I was thinking, okay, these things happen. This happened with Metroid Prime 4 in recent years. That game also had a very troubled development history, to the point where the entire development of that game was basically restarted. And it seemed like one of those situations. But then they confirmed that the Wonder Woman game was still years away from being released. So I was like, okay, at least, they're still working on it, and, it'll still come out eventually. Well, not anymore. Now, an official statement was given, and according to JB Perrette, who's the head of games and streaming for Warner Brothers, they went on to state that the quality of too many of our new releases has really missed the mark. And this is an accurate statement. Furthermore, we need to make some substantial changes to our portfolio and or team structure if we are to commit the necessary resources to get back to a fewer but bigger franchises strategy. So what it sounds like is, and this is just my interpretation, but what it sounds like is they're downscaling. They want to make fewer games, but they want to focus those games on the big franchises that they control. The thing is, WB Games has only released around 4 major AAA studio games this generation. 3 of them are garbage. 1 turned out to be good. So, going through these games real quick, because I covered all of these games on the channel, Mortal Kombat 1 was a fucking disaster. I still remember when this game came out and how unbelievably disappointed I was at the end result. And the red flags were there. And this game has not gotten any better since it came out. I recently bought for 20 bucks the Chaos Reigns expansion, and just to try out some of the other DLC characters, and I'm just still baffled at the choices that they made with the some of the subsequent DLC characters for Combat Pack 2. What they did with Sector and Cyrax is just a joke. An even greater joke is the fact that they put in Conan the Barbarian, Ghostface, and the T-1000 from Terminator 2. Like, who the fuck asked for these characters in this game? Why do you have Conan the Barbarian and T-1000 as DLC characters, as extras in the latest Mortal Kombat game? It just doesn't make sense. And the concurrent player count for this game is worse than the last Mortal Kombat game that was released, which is Mortal Kombat 11, which is in the top 10 best-selling fighting games of all time. And Mortal Kombat 11 was a piece of shit too. Then we have Gotham Knights, which was just a catastrophic failure of epic proportions. In no way, shape, or form did this live up to the legacy of the Arkham franchise. They tried something new, they tried something different, which I appreciate, but the execution was so poor that it really doesn't matter. And it's basically a situation where you have to call a spade a spade. This is one of the worst performing games on the PC platform that I've played, and I highlighted that in my retrospective when I made that video a few years back. The game still has a mixed rating on Steam at 68%, 14,000 reviews, which is pretty rare to see on Steam. And whenever this game goes on sale, because no one wants to play it, they're selling it for a bargain bin price. Like right now, it's on sale for 12 bucks. And if you ask me, the game still isn't worth that shit. I haven't touched this game since I uploaded my video on it years ago. I uninstalled the shit, and it's just been sitting in my library, basically going untouched ever since. Then we have an even greater catastrophe with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which was an epic fail from the moment this game was announced, all the way leading through its release and its subsequent flop on the market close thereafter. This game has an even worse reception on Steam at 62% with over 10,000 reviews. This was one of the longest reviews that I made this generation for any game that I've played and covered on the channel. And I found it to be highly, highly disrespectful as a DC fan. If they were going to cancel any game, it should have been this one. That's how bad this game was. And they're selling this shit for an even lower bargain bin price than Gotham Knights. 90% off of a $70 price tag whenever this game goes on sale. Like I said, catastrophic failure. With these three games combined, Mortal Kombat 1, Gotham Knights, and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, WB Games has been just consistently horrible the entire generation. The only game that they've released that's worth a shit, that's actually good, is Hogwarts Legacy, which to this day has maintained a 90% rating with over 223,000 reviews. And this game was a monumental success for WB Games. This game, in fact, beat out Call of Duty and became the highest selling game in the year that it was released, which was back in 2023, 2 years ago. A very rare case that seldom happens. And I also covered Hogwarts Legacy and found it to be a pretty exceptional RPG. It wasn't without its faults, but the pros outweighed the cons by a long mile. So I'll give them this. I'll give them this game. But one game out of 4 that's good is not a good track record. Something else that occurred with WB Discovery as of this year, back in January last month, the head of the video game division, David Haddad, stepped down. And this came after WB Games had suffered a horrible year with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which came out last year. And like I said, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was a huge failure. The game was a $200 million flop. And then they also released Harry Potter Quidditch Champions, which I skipped that, as well as Multiverses. And so the company ate yet another $100 million loss for the failures of those two games. Warner Brothers chief executive David Zaslav, who's not doing the company any favors, explained to investors back in November that the company's video game business was substantially underperforming its potential, as he put it. What's crazy about all of this is that there is no reason why a company like WB Games should be struggling this much, to this degree. They shouldn't be struggling at all. This is the company that has control of franchises like Batman, DC Comics, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter. These are some of the most popular entertainment properties of all time. So I don't understand what's the real struggle here. Why is it so difficult to put out a good quality product? And even though they got rid of David Haddad, I'm sure there's other people at the top who's responsible for a number of these games being released in such a terrible state. Now, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, that was a big enough failure to the point where, they had a lot of layoffs at Rocksteady, and the studio's been massively downsized. And now it's been rumored that their next game is a Batman game. I'm personally not interested after the death of Kevin Conroy for another Batman game. We already have had 4 Batman Arkham games. We don't need another one. And the only way I would personally be interested in another Batman Arkham game would be if they do Batman Beyond. If they do a Terry McGinnis story with Batman Beyond, that'll catch my interest for another Batman Arkham installment. But beyond that, I don't give a shit, dude, about another Batman game. People have been asking for a Superman game for years. I don't know why no one has, tried to get on that. And now you've canceled the Wonder Woman game. We're not getting that. I mean, as a DC fan, this is just incredibly disappointing on so many levels. I cannot continue to support a company that continues to fail over and over and over and over again. The only game that I would be interested in from WB Games at this point would be a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy, which I believe is in the works. But when it comes to any of their other properties that they control, whether it's Mortal Kombat, DC Comics, Batman, Lord of the Rings, there is absolutely no reason to have any faith in WB Games at this point. And until they get their act together, I got to step back. So as of this point going forward, I have no further interest or plans to cover anything from WB Games. If there's a title that does stroke my interest, I got to see some review numbers first. I got to see some review scores before I even touch another game from this company, because I don't believe in rewarding mediocrity. And WB Games has been nothing but consistently mediocre almost the entirety of this generation. So I'm taking a step back.